Albuquerque police say they finally have the suspect who they believe pulled the trigger in this week's 7-Eleven killing. Chad Mercer, a clerk, was shot and killed. A total of 3 suspects are involved here, all now in custody. Our News 13's David Romero has been following this story. He's live in the Newsplex. And David, you are also learning more about the victim here.
That's right, Elizabeth. Chad Mercer was just doing his job the night police say he was killed. We've learned he was an Army veteran and father of 3. Now, the 3 men involved in the robbery, including the alleged shooter, are all now behind bars. Yesterday, police were able to arrest the man who they say pulled the trigger. It's 22-year-old Eloy Aguilar. They were able to track him down at his apartment near I-25 in Jefferson. Investigators say the 3 ended up at the 7-Eleven convenience store near UNM on Tuesday morning after a night of partying and drinking. Now, details in the criminal complaints say Villarreal and de Herrera robbed some students in a van outside the store for their cell phones. That's when detectives say Aguilar charged in to rob the store. A shot was fired, hitting Mercer. Now, neighbors who knew him are trying to come to grips with this senseless loss.
It hurt me real bad. I mean, he's my neighbor. I feel sorry for the wife and the baby.
All 3 men arrested in the case, Aguilar, Villarreal, and de Herrera, are all facing murder charges. Elizabeth, back to you.
Very tragic, David. Thank you so much. By the way, the trio did not have serious criminal records prior to all this. They now could face life in prison without parole.
This just in this morning. Within the last 5 or 10 minutes, we have just found out Albuquerque police have named the man they say stabbed and killed someone earlier this week. Investigators are now looking for Vigaret Vicente, who also goes by the nickname Friday. Police say Vicente stabbed a man in the chest over and over at this home near Texas and Central on Tuesday night. That man later died. Investigators say Vicente will face murder charges once he's arrested. A tree trimmer is in critical condition this morning after being attacked by a swarm of bees. It looks like those bees built a hive in an old cottonwood tree that the 3 men were working on yesterday morning here in Las Cruces. The bees attacked all 3 of them, but a 52-year-old man got the worst of it. Paramedics found him unconscious and covered in bees. They rushed him to the hospital. He's recovering now. The entire neighborhood was shut down while experts worked to get rid of those bees. Well, this is an awfully strange story this morning. Rio Rancho police say a man decided to go bite a dog, but he is the one who ended up in the hospital. Investigators say Joshua Cabrera bit his roommate's dog recently. That's when police say the roommate, Brandon Baker, and another roommate, Anthony Rivera here, beat up Cabrera. Both roommates are now facing aggravated battery charges. The dog was not seriously hurt.
Could New Mexico's barefoot bandit finally be in custody? Authorities say this man has been captured on surveillance video holding up 2 different banks recently. They call him the barefoot bandit because he often wears no shoes. Well, yesterday, police arrested a man named George Hyatt for violating his probation. Sources tell us he could very well be the barefoot bandit. We do know that Hyatt has robbed banks before. He was released from prison in July of last year after robbing a bank a few years ago. Hyatt, though, has not yet been charged in the recent robberies. This morning, a disabled Rio Rancho man is in a bind. The city is forcing him to clean up the weeds in his yards, but he says he can't. 62-year-old Raul Alvarado is disabled and living on a fixed income. He says he is not physically able to pick up the weeds in his yard and says he can't afford to pay anyone to do it. Neighbors are complaining big time here. In the past, crews would come out and clean up his yard thanks to a community block grant, but that's not happening anymore.
Now I'm told when I got cited that the program no longer exists and that I'm liable to get $500 fines.
Rio Rancho police say those fines just come with the territory. Right now, Alvarado has until the 24th to fix his yard, or he'll have to face a judge, according to code enforcement.
Hundreds of teachers want some big changes this morning, and they're letting the state's public education department know that loud and clear.
What do we want?
Real reform!
When do we want it?
Now!
All these teachers are in Santa Fe protesting yesterday because the state wants to change the way teachers are evaluated. Right now, principals grade how teachers do in the classroom, but the education department wants to make student test scores part of the teachers' evaluations. And teachers do not like that one bit, saying it would force them to focus on testing rather than teaching.
They're asking us to curtail the amount of education that we give kids. So now it's about memorization, not thinking. And I think that's detrimental to the kids' development.
Both sides agree the way teachers are evaluated is outdated, but they do not agree on how to fix it.
This morning, we have learned New Mexico's stratosphere may soon be the subject of a new test having to do with a controversial measure to fight global warming. The experiment is the brainchild of Harvard scientist David Keith. Now, it would be to launch on a NASA scientific balloon from Fort Sumner, New Mexico. Keith says to halt global warming, mankind may someday need to simulate the effects of giant volcanoes and also pump man-made sulfate particles into the stratosphere. Now, critics worry the concept could derail other efforts to fight global warming and have unknown consequences on the environment.